Alrighty. Welcome, everybody, back to the Hot and Cold podcast. I'm your host, as always, David Miller, joined by my lovely co-host, Andrew Watkins. Andrew, how are we doing today?
Pretty tired from this week, but we pushed through it. Very excited for this episode, as always.
Of course. Okay, so I have a question for you. Now, as we all know, the NFL Combine is currently going on, and there have been a lot of interesting interviews with different draft prospects, a lot of revealing interviews, mostly about their character and the type of kid they are. But one prospect stood out in particular to me. Now, I'm not going to tell you who that is. It's going to be your job to figure it out. So it's a multiple choice question this time. Which of these four prospects was a theater kid before they started playing football? Was it offensive tackle Ike Mekwonu, safety Kyle Hamilton, offensive tackle Evan Neal, or edge rusher Aiden Hutchinson?
Hamilton. I just have that instinct.
Okay, it was not Kyle Hamilton. It was Ike Mekwonu, actually. Surprisingly. I know. First of all, this man said that he got to play the lead in 101 Dalmatians. He was, what's the dog's name? Pongo? Is that right?
No idea.
I don't either. I think it's Pongo. It's something like that. But he said that was one of his biggest accomplishments in life, period. And that was in like elementary school. But I thought it was funny. Yeah, I thought it was funny given our background that one of the top prospects in this year's draft, arguably, a top 3 to 5 prospect, was a former theater kid. So that was more of a way to brag about the fact that we're theater kids than anything.
Yeah.
But speaking of the Combine, it's been stupid this year. None of these 40 times make sense. I'm going to pull up a couple here. I know a lot of people were thinking of, a lot of guys were pushing towards breaking records. The biggest one that stood out to me was Jordan Davis, who is a defensive tackle out of Georgia. Dude is 6'6", 341 pounds, and he ran a 4.8 40-yard dash. That is faster than Patrick Mahomes. He ran a faster 40 time than Patrick Mahomes. That is insane. To be that size of a human and be that quick at that position is insanity. This is a guy that I have going in the first round. I got to do my second mock draft now that the Combine's wrapping up. But in my first mock draft, I had him going to the Chargers. And I think that's still a pretty good fit for him, but he might even get drafted higher after that. Because that's a height, weight, speed athlete that you're never going to see again. Like,
nobody's ever seen this before.
Yeah, well, I guess that's a better way of putting it, because we probably will see it again with the way everyone's trending towards being an athletic freak, which, I think this year has shown, a lot of people talk about the gap between old school athletes and current athletes. This dude ran, like I said, a 4.8. Jerry Rice ran a 4.7. That's a tenth of a second slower than Jerry Rice, the greatest receiver in NFL history. That is insane.
That is sinful.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I misquoted that. Jerry Rice ran a 4.71. He ran a 4.78. That's even a smaller gap. That is insane. And then we look at some of these wide receiver 40 times. The one receiver everyone thought broke the record, and it turned out they ended up screwing up the counter. But I know Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson ran a 4.39 and a 4.38 respectively, which means they are the fastest teammates in combine or at the Combine since 2006. The other two being Terry McLaurin and Paris Campbell, all coming from Ohio State, by the way. Ohio State's doing something weird with their receivers. But here we go. Official 40 times. We had Tyquan Thornton running a 4.28. Velus Jones running a 4.31. I hope I said that right. I've never heard of this kid. Calvin Austin running a 4.32. Alec Pierce and Danny Gray running a 4.33. Bo Melton running a 3.34. Christian Watson, my favorite receiver in the class, running a 4.36. And then Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave, as I said, ran a 4.38 and a 4.39. Sky Moore ran a 4.41. Isaiah Weston ran a 4.42. And then Jahan Dotson, Khalil Shakir, and Kevin Austin Jr. all ran 4.43s. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 receivers that ran a sub 4.5 40-yard dash this year. It's absolutely insane. And everyone looked at it when the unofficial times came out. Tyquan Thornton, everyone thought broke the record, like I said. Everyone thought Chris Olave ran like a 4.2 or like a 4.29 or whatever it was. Christian Watson, who I want to talk about in a minute, everyone thought ran a 4.26, I think, or a 4.28, and he ended up running a 4.36. Christian Watson, 6'4", 208 pounds, and he ran a 4.36. That's insanity. I'm kind of all over the place right now talking about this just because it's truly insane. Just how like that's the main idea here. It's insane how fast the players were at the combine this year. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Like this draft class is phenomenal as long as you don't need a quarterback. Like if you don't need a quarterback, if you're like the Bears in particular, you're looking at offensive line, you're looking at receivers, DBs, great class. This is a phenomenal class to have a lot of needs in because it's deep. Through like the first 5 rounds, you're probably getting starting caliber players. Through the first 3 or 4 rounds, you're probably getting day 1 starters. In the first 2 rounds, you're probably getting future Pro Bowlers. This draft class is insane, and I feel very lucky because this is the first year I've really paid a lot of attention to the draft. And because of that, this class being the first one I really got to dive deeply into, it's just fun. It's so fun to watch all these guys on tape. Christian Watson especially. I cannot stop gushing about this dude. If the Bears get him at pick 39, I will go ballistic. He's just such a good football player. Is there anyone that stood out to you, or anyone that has stood out to you, even outside of the combine, just any college players in general?
No, literally just Jordan Davis. Yeah, literally, it's so hard to put into words how crazy that is what he did. And didn't he do really good for like the 3-cone drill and stuff like that as well?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think
yeah.
that
Hold on, I think I can. I'll find his full combine numbers here. But that Georgia front, all the players from Georgia this year, I'll pull up a list of the names, but him and Trayvon Walker specifically are absolutely insane as defensive line prospects. Let's see here. I cannot find anything for the life of me. Everyone's just gushing about his 40. Oh, yeah. Okay, so Jordan Davis. Hold on. No, it's not. Why isn't he ran it? But I can't find his freaking 3-cone. Hold on, I'm looking at Twitter. Let's try the actual internet. That is a much more reliable source. Jordan Davis 3-cone. I should have had this prepared ahead of time. But yet, Jordan Davis is literally the Incredible Hulk. That's my comp for him. If I were to pick a singular entity to compare Jordan Davis to, it's the Hulk. Let's see here.
Yeah, while you're trying to find that, like wherever he was in the draft board, he's boosted himself up by
Oh
like
yeah.
at least 10 to 15% of
Oh
where
yeah.
he was. It's an
Yeah.
combat.
Like I said, I didn't think I had him falling to the Chargers just because I felt like before the draft he was kind of a raw prospect, and the Chargers are the first team that are like desperate for defensive line help. Like that's their biggest hole right now. Jerry Tillery, who's their current interior defensive lineman, is probably the worst in the league, and I'm not exaggerating. That dude is a bum. And the Chargers are such a good football team, but teams just run all over them. But you put the Incredible Hulk in the middle, you're not running on the Chargers.
That's a little bit of a different story then.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not finding his 3-cone, but he does have a 32-inch vertical and a 10'3" broad jump as well, which means this dude's going to be getting up. He's going to be quick off the ball, and he's going to be a guy that's probably going to bat a lot of balls down at the line of scrimmage, which is an insanely underrated trait for a defensive lineman. Not a lot of people talk about how important that is. Like, that's a big thing that makes J.J. Watt so special. And Cameron Hayward from the Steelers is big for that as well. But I'm absolutely excited to see what happens with Jordan Davis, and then obviously I'm going to keep simping for Christian Watson. If he goes, I cannot say it enough. If he goes to the Bears, I will die a happy man. Because this is a guy that, I'm going to give a little bit of a sneak preview to a TikTok I'm making later this week. Christian Watson has very few flaws in his game. He is, like I said, 6'4", 208 pounds. He's fast. He's a good run blocker, which, again, heavily underrated trait, especially for the type of offense the Bears are going to run next year, a Shanahan offense. For those of you who know what that is, I don't feel the need to explain it right now. Run blocking receivers are very important because it's a lot of running and a lot of RPOs and a lot of play action. So a guy like Christian Watson is going to be perfect for that offense. And his big frame makes him the perfect complement to Darnell Mooney because Darnell Mooney is a short little deep threat. Christian Watson's going to catch the ball over the middle more. His route tree expanded tenfold his last year at North Dakota State. That was one of the issues with him at first, was his route running ability, but he's way better at it now. Now the only issue is he has problems with concentration drops, and his physicality is kind of questionable, which are two things that are very easily coached. If you get a coach out there that can boost his confidence, just be like, hey, dude, listen, you are 6'4". You can go out there and moss somebody, and we're going to thank you for it. Plus, when he gets to the NFL, he's going to put on a little bit of weight because he's kind of scrawny right now, being 6 foot. Like, he's just built scrawny. So he'll put on weight. He'll hit the weight room. He's a hard worker. He's a great team player, which is another big thing. And especially for the Bears, there's a culture shift that's going on. And it's very important that he contributes to that. He would be a great contribution to that. He's just like my favorite prospect in this draft. Him and the fullback that I've been raving about for months now, Clint Radkovich and Daniel Faalele, are my big three right now. If the Bears got all three of them, I would lose my mind. That's probably not going to happen, though. So if we got even two of them, that would be wonderful. Now, I've been doing a lot of talking. So let's talk about the Giants, Andrew. That's what we'll talk about next. And there are two names currently associated with the New York Giants for very different reasons. The first of which being Saquon Barkley. And a lot of NFL executives, when the combine's going on, there's a lot of rumors flying around. Executives are chit-chatting. They're talking to reporters, talking to the media, giving people ideas of what's going on. And it seems like the consensus value for former, second overall pick Saquon Barkley is a 4th-round pick. How do you feel about that as a Giants fan?
I mean, it's kind of, it's like deserving because he was really good, one of the best running backs in the league. But he has been injured so much. He's been injured for the past however many years. He's barely been playing, and his production has gone down because of it. And as I've said, as I keep saying, the best ability is availability. And if he wasn't injured, he would be one of the best running backs in the league. But you can't rest on those hypotheticals. You can't, as a Giants executive, you can't be like, oh, but he can play at this level if he's not injured. Well, he will be injured because he's been injured in the past. So I guess you just take what you can get, which would be that 4th-round pick.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Especially with new GM Joe Shane, who seems like he definitely wants to blow things up in New York. He wants to get assets in any way he can. If you have an injury-prone player like Saquon, which is so unfortunate to say, because he's a generational talent. He truly is. It's just he caught the injury bug and he caught it bad. It feels like every time he gets hit, he's slow to get up or he doesn't get up. I saw it firsthand when he was playing the Bears, tore his ACL. I think that was the most recent time he did it, was against the Bears. And then he came back last year and he just wasn't himself. And that's not entirely his fault. The Giants are a bad football team, terrible offensive line. And nowadays in the NFL, you almost have to have a good offensive line to be a successful running back. And that adds to kind of his value being a 4th-round pick because running backs are not valuable anymore. As much as I hate that, I'm still a believer in the fullback. I'm a very traditional, old-school football fan. And the fact that running backs pretty much hold no value sucks. Especially with Saquon, he's going into a position where he's about to get paid, or hypothetically would get paid, and you don't want to pay him. You do not want to pay Saquon Barkley. If this is rookie year Saquon Barkley, if this is pre-ACL tear Saquon Barkley, then by all means. He's the type of guy that I think transcends that when he's healthy. But like you said, he just doesn't. He can't stay healthy. And that's kind of to the detriment of the Giants because, first of all, you're not going to get the value you want out of him. And if you keep him, you got to pay him. And nobody wants to pay him. So what's going to end up happening is they're going to trade Saquon for cheap. I think a fourth-round pick is – I mean, I agree with that value at this point, unfortunately. But they're going to trade him cheap to a contender, and they are going to reap the benefits. That's what's going to suck because if Saquon manages to stay healthy for another team, it's going to look like the Giants got fleeced because he's going to come out, have a crazy season. I hate saying this because I know this just sucks for you, but he's going to come out and have a crazy year for somebody and just make the Giants look stupid. And then the Giants are going to be running with God knows who. Maybe they draft a running back in like the 5th round or 4th round or whatever, because this is actually a pretty solid running back class. But it sucks to see Saquon. It really does. Injuries suck. That's the main takeaway from this. Christian McCaffrey is another example of that. I think he has a little bit more value, though, with his pass catching ability that Saquon doesn't quite have. But you put Saquon on a team, like even the Dolphins, I think, would benefit greatly from Saquon, especially after getting Mike McDaniel, who is a great run game guy, was with the 49ers. I don't know. It just sucks to see Saquon. It really does.
Yeah,
But, sorry, go ahead.
like you were saying, like a little bit ago, the reason that running backs aren't as valuable is perfectly encapsulated by the Giants because you do have this really, really good running back, generational talent running back, but you're missing just about everything else. And you can definitely see the impact because they don't have this offensive line and they have this really good running back, teams are going to target that running back and they're going to focus their game plan on him. So he can't do anything, first of all. And second of all, he's more prone to injuries if you're going to use him that much because he's your only bright spot.
Yeah, exactly. I'm looking up real quick Saquon's draft class because I want to. I'm sorry, but I want to look up where the Giants messed up, taking, guys over or taking Saquon over guys. Yeah, it's 2018. Names are escaping me right now. But I'm ironically Saquon won Rookie of the Year this year. I forgot about that. Saquon actually ended up looking like a really good pick at the time. But you're scrolling through here. Denzel Ward, just literally a couple picks after Saquon. Denzel Ward, Bradley Chubb, Quentin Nelson, Josh Allen of the Buffalo Bills, Roquan Smith, Minka Fitzpatrick, Vita Vea, Tremaine Edmonds, who I don't even really like. I don't even know why I said him. Derwin James, Marcus Davenport, Jair Alexander, Frank Ragnow, DJ Moore, Calvin Ridley. I mean, there are so many names. Lamar Jackson. This 2018 class was stacked. And, hindsight's obviously 2020, right? Like Saquon seemed like a fine pick at the time for anyone who isn't a little analytics nerd. Anyone who still believed in the running back, which again, I still do. I believe in the value of the running back. It just doesn't seem like NFL GMs do. So it hurts. I wouldn't know what it would be like to pass on a generational talent for, some guy who was supposed to be decent and didn't pan out. I would know nothing about that as a Bears fan, especially not taking the guy second overall. I would know nothing about that.
No.
Yeah. But speaking of players taking over generational talents, the other name linked to the New York Giants currently is Mitchell Trubisky, which I have been preaching for weeks now would be a great pickup for the Giants. Now, part of that is just because I want to see Mitch succeed. I want to see Mitch go somewhere. I don't think he's a good quarterback. I really don't. I think a lot of people are overrating him just because of Matt Nagy. Like, yeah, Nagy was bad, but Trubisky was just as bad. My favorite thing to point to with this, I'll let you talk in a minute. I know I'm doing a lot of talking today. My favorite thing to point to with Trubisky is the fact that Matt Nagy, when he came to Chicago, he had a playbook, right? Every coach comes with a playbook. Nagy had to dumb his playbook down 3 or 4 times because Trubisky just didn't understand it. And that's not like Nagy was writing up confusing plays or Nagy was trying to pull weird concepts out of his ass. That was Nagy was bringing him NFL level plays or plays and things of that nature. God, I can't talk. He was bringing Trubisky NFL level plays and some plays that might have some complex concepts. And Trubisky was like, yeah, no, that doesn't work up here. That doesn't register. So the Bears were always held back. And as much as I love Trubisky, again, I want the man to prove me wrong. I just don't think he will. However, if you're a team like the Giants who maybe wants to bring in a quarterback to motivate Daniel Jones or be a bridge quarterback for your next quarterback, whoever that may be, sure. You know, he's not going to win you a bunch of games, but he's good enough to where you're not going to want to die every time you watch him. So, how would you feel if the Giants got Trubisky?
I mean, I think I've said this before, but anybody but Daniel Jones at this point,
Yeah.
and he's a cheap quarterback. Ooh, not like cheap, but he'd be cheaper than like sticking with Daniel Jones for however much longer. And I think the cheaper you can go at this point in time, the better. Because I, like you said, a transitional quarterback. He should be a transitional quarterback because we should, at this point, the Giants should stop trying to contend and they should start trying to rebuild. And this offseason is very critical in that because we have so many picks. We're trying to make so many moves and all that stuff. So I would definitely appreciate a Mitchell Trubisky move to the Giants.
See, the unfortunate thing about that is the buzz at the combine is saying that Trubisky isn't going to be cheap. It looks like there's going to be a bidding war for Trubisky. That's where we're at right now. That's the confidence NFL GMs and scouts have in this current quarterback class is that there's going to be a bidding war for Mitchell Trubisky.
It's a little bit ludicrous.
Yeah. And a lot of executives, at least the reports I'm seeing, say that they believe Trubisky could make upwards of $10 million a year over a multi-year deal. So that's cheap-ish for a quarterback, but that's not what you want to pay a transitional quarterback or a bridge quarterback. Maybe if you can convince Trubisky, this is the advantage the Giants have. They have Brian Daboll now. And I said, like right when Trubisky got signed by the Bills, that Daboll was bringing in Trubisky to build up to bring with him. Because I knew Daboll would get a coaching job this season. And if it was to a team that didn't have a quarterback, he would take Trubisky with him. It's like getting a built-in quarterback. You're bringing Mitch there. He has a familiarity with Daboll. He knows the offenses he likes to run, things like that, because he worked with him for a year. And if you can convince Mitch, like, hey, you like Daboll, he likes you, come here for like a year on a prove it deal, and if you pan out, you're our quarterback, we'll pay you. Maybe you get him in like a Ryan Tannehill situation where he comes in for the younger starter, like Tannehill did with Mariota. Maybe Trubisky takes over for Daniel Jones in like week 3 or 4. Or if he doesn't pan out, you're not paying him for a long period of time, and then him and Daniel Jones both walk in free agency. So maybe the Giants have that advantage, but it would be kind of hard for Mitch to turn down, a team like the Commanders giving him 4 years, $40 million, or 4 years, $48 million, whatever it is. So Trubisky's in a weird spot. I'm very happy my boy's about to get paid. That's the way I'm looking at this. He's not going to get paid by my team. My team has a quarterback, and he's about to get paid by somebody. As long as it's not Pittsburgh, I'm going to be happy for him. If it is Pittsburgh, though, I will publicly disown him. And I stand by that. I own 2 Mitchell Trubisky jerseys. I will get rid of both of them if he becomes a Pittsburgh Steeler. And you have known me for the entirety of the Mitchell Trubisky era in Chicago. You know how much I love that man.
Yeah.
You
have
have heard me rant millions of times about this man, and back when I was in my delusions, he's underrated. It's Nagy. I used to be in the same boat, but when you look at it, from a separate perspective, it wasn't. Mitch was just bad. And as much as I love the guy, if he does go to Pittsburgh, dead to me. He's absolutely dead to me. And I will prey upon his downfall for many moons. But speaking of quarterbacks, that's kind of the big thing right now is a lot of these quarterbacks in free agency are going to move. And some of the other big names aside from Trubisky, we have Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, Jameis Winston, Deshaun Watson, Jimmy Garoppolo, and Carson Wentz. Now, just going in order here, Russell Wilson, did you hear about the trade offer that got made for him?
I did, but I don't remember it.
The Commanders offered multiple first-round picks for Russ, and either he used his no trade clause or the team said no. I can't remember which. I don't think Russ is going to leave personally. I think he's going to stick in Seattle because if he leaves, he's probably going to a worse situation because there's not a lot of teams that have the assets to pay for him. Like the Giants have the assets to pay for him. You give them both your first round picks, and like that seems like a little bit of a band-aid, but I don't think that's a good move for the Giants to make. Now that I've thought about it, it's a worse football team. You're giving up 2 first round picks for a quarterback who's already in his 30s. I think the Seahawks are just going to hang on to Russ. I can't see him moving. And then Aaron Rodgers came out this weekend, said he's making his decision Tuesday, which thank God. I am so sick of hearing about this man. I think Charles Barkley said it best. Charles Barkley the other day said Aaron Rodgers is like the pretty girl at school that constantly needs reminded that she's the pretty girl. Because that man, I have never seen a grown man want attention more than Aaron Rodgers. It is absolutely ridiculous. Like back in December, he came out and was like, I'm not going to make this a whole drawn out process. I'm going to come to a conclusion quickly. And here we are at the beginning of March, and he's still like, I'm very conflicted. I haven't made up my mind yet. But he's going to go on the Pat McAfee show on Tuesday and make a big show of it because he loves the theatrics.
No,
I hate it.
That reminds me of like LeBron's decision to go
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
he really wants to make it that big of a deal that he's going to go to a different
Mm-hmm.
team. It's not that big of a deal.
I will stand by the concept that Aaron Rodgers is the LeBron James of the NFL and Tom Brady's the Michael Jordan. Like Tom and Mike are the best, but LeBron and Rodgers might be more talented. Yeah, they're not quite as successful, but they might be more talented. That's a whole other thing. I'm not getting into a LeBron versus Jordan debate. We're on the same side of that, so it wouldn't be much of a debate. But I'm just sick of Rodgers. But apparently he's down to Denver, Pittsburgh, Tennessee, and staying in Green Bay, which would mean that first of all, it's stupid that he's even getting to make a decision in the first place. This isn't the NBA where the players have a lot more control. This is the NFL. If Brian Gutekunst, who's the GM of the Packers, is like, listen, I'm not trading you, then Rodgers is stuck. He's stuck. And I know Rodgers has a no trade clause, and I think a lot of people are misinterpreting what that is. It just means that Rodgers can deny a trade. That doesn't mean he can force his way out. That doesn't mean he can tell Gutekunst, hey, you're trading me here no matter what. That's not how that works. Gutekunst can honor his wishes, or if Rodgers is like, hey, if you could trade me here, that would be cool. He can do that. But Rodgers cannot come out and be like, I'm going here, you are going to trade me there, and that's how it's going to happen. That's not how football works. More powerful men have tried. So Rodgers' decision, I'm assuming, just means that those 3 teams have offers in place that Green Bay likes, and Rodgers would be okay with going there. So Gutekunst is giving him the opportunity to pick, which is just so stupid. It's just so stupid. I hate Rodgers. I really do. As a Bears fan, I don't care if he comes back to Green Bay. I just want him to shut up. I just want this man to shut his mouth and let us enjoy the offseason. This isn't the Aaron Rodgers show. This is the NFL. I know Brady's gone now, but you're not the poster boy. You're not. After the playoffs, you are not Patrick Mahomes. You are not Josh Allen. You are not Joe Burrow. You are not Matthew Stafford. You might be better than all of them, but you're not them. They're the face of the NFL. You're the face. Yeah, exactly. They're all a lot more likable people. All 4 of them. Speaking of which, completely random, I didn't even want to talk about this. I saw a chart, and it was the least liked individuals in the NFL according to Twitter. And someone took Twitter analytics and calculated all the negative tweets about these different people. And I'm pretty sure Tom Brady was number 1, which I expect.
Yeah.
But then towards the top was Patrick Mahomes. He was in the top 3. And I hate that so much. Because Mahomes is such a good guy. It's just because of his wife and his brother.
I was going to say, it's probably his wife.
Yeah, it's all because of Brittany and Jackson. Everyone hates them.
I think that's so funny. there's like memes about like him being able to tolerate them.
Mm-hmm.
It's so funny.
Yeah, like listen, that's his brother and that's his high school sweetheart. He loves them. At least I would hope. I don't know Mahomes personally. I can't speak on it, but I would hope he loves them. And even if he does seem a little bit fed up, which, okay, here's another thing. The people who sit and analyze his body language on TikTok and on Twitter, they are weird. Those people need to go outside. They need to stop worrying
Yeah.
about Mahomes and need to go get themselves some bitches. That is ridiculous. That is absolutely ridiculous. They need to go outside. They need to get a job. They need to be productive members of society. Because analyzing a football player's body language screams, I live in my mom's basement and I don't have anything better to do with my time. Like, I suppose it could be worse. They could be playing League of Legends, but
Ooh.
that's a very close second. It's a very close second. And, like, they had him and Brady. Bill Belichick was second. That's who it was. It was Brady, Belichick, Mahomes were the top three, I believe. Those three were ahead of Deshaun Watson, which I find very concerning.
That's horrific.
Yeah, like I understand Watson is innocent until proven guilty, right? But the allegations are there. And they're very strong allegations. Like I don't want to get too much into it because I know it's a very sensitive subject and I don't want to demonize Watson because I don't know if he did it or not. I don't know the type of person he is. But when you have over 20 women accusing you of doing disgusting things, I have a hard time believing all 20 are lying. Even if one of them is telling the truth, you are scum. It doesn't have to be all 20, just one. That's all it takes. But speaking of Watson, he's another quarterback that is probably going to be moved. Apparently, the Dolphins are out on him, which means they're in on Tua, which is interesting to me. But I saw Denver and Carolina, I believe, are the two strongest suitors for him right now. And if Watson plays, if he's innocent, I would be okay with either of them. I think he'll be a great fit on either team. If you trade him to Carolina, you're probably trading away McCaffrey in the 6th pick. If you're Denver, you're probably trading away the 9th pick and, something else. And obviously it would take more than just McCaffrey in the 6th pick. It's Watson. But it all depends on whether or not he's innocent. So what do you think about that, Andrew? I got to get you involved here. I'm talking way too much.
I hate it when like a talent like Watson gets into some criminal trouble. It's like that seems like it's a unfortunate trend that keeps happening. All these young players that have so much promise keep getting in trouble because they get so much money and they have an ego issue or something like that, and then they get into some big trouble and they ruin their entire careers. And yeah, like he's not guilty yet, but like you said, the 20, not all of them. I find it hard to believe that all of them would be lying. But if he does play, I think that he'll make himself a great addition to a team that is looking for a quarterback. There are a lot of teams that are in those types of situations at this point.
I think you hit the nail on the head, as you tend to do with him kind of being a victim of circumstance to a certain degree. Like, obviously, I'm not defending Watson. If he did what he did, he's sick. But this is going to sound really bad. We live in a society where athletes like that, like you said, they get all this money, they get all this attention, and they develop literal God complexes. Because I don't know Watson's backstory, but in a lot of instances, you take a kid who has nothing. He has absolutely nothing. They grew up in poverty, single mother, that kind of thing. You hear that story a million times a year. And they go to this big college program like Alabama or Clemson or Notre Dame, whoever. And these coaches, especially now that the players are able to make money off of endorsements, but under the table, these coaches are giving them money and cars, and they're in college. They're the big quarterback on campus, so girls throw themselves at them, at parties and whatnot. And I'm not saying that's not always the situation. I'm not saying that by any means, but it happens. It does happen. And these guys, they get, like I said, they get God complexes, and they think nobody can tell them no. And then when someone finally does tell them no, they snap, and they don't know how to handle it. And they do disgusting, horrible things. I'm not saying I feel bad for Watson. I'm not saying he's a good person. I'm just saying, like you said, it's an unfortunate trend that is continuing to pick up steam. And I think it's something as a society we really need to work on because we hold these kids, he's a kid. He was a kid when this happened. He was a kid when he was at Clemson and whatnot, older than me, but still a kid. We hold them to a high regard. We hold them to a high standard where they are treated like gods and they are treated like superstars. And they just don't know how to handle it. And it all goes to their head and then they snap. But like you said, go ahead.
No, like a very rare reference to soccer, but um, there's a player for Manchester United. I don't know if you've heard about this, but his name's Mason Greenwood, and he was like in soccer, you can get signed to a team when you're like 16 and 17.
Yeah.
This guy has been in the youth academy for Manchester United for a very long time. He had an audio tape leaked of him raping his girlfriend or sexually assaulting his girlfriend, and that is exactly the reason why. Because ever since this kid has been a little baby boy, he has been told that he's so good at this sport. He's, it's like he is destined for greatness. He is so amazing, and that's just the trend that is going to happen with the way that social media portrays athletes. It's just like these people are so good. These people are peak humans. These people are deserving of love and of our worship. And it gets into their heads and they do sick things. They do terrible things because they think that the rules don't apply to them. They think that nobody can say no to them. And then they do break down and they can't react when people do say no.
Mm-hmm. It's really ironic that you put it that way with social media because we were literally just doing that like 10 minutes ago with Jordan Davis, talking about how he's a freak human and whatnot. But it's the truth. That's just the way our society is right now. Social media is a cancer. It is terrible. We all use it. I'm guilty of it. I need it at this point because I am using it to kind of jumpstart this whole sports thing. But social media is a cancer. And the way it manipulates these kids and these young athletes, like you said, it's just terrible. It's just absolutely terrible. And again, I'm not saying Watson's a victim. I'm not saying Watson deserves your sympathy if he's guilty. But it's disgusting. It absolutely is disgusting what it turns these people into. And this is something that's always been around. It started way back in the day with politicians, and then you have your actors doing it. And now it's just evolved into athletes because we're holding them to the same degree. I'm very guilty of it. Football is my favorite thing. And I hold players, I literally worshipped Mitchell Trubisky for like 4 years. And thank God he's a good guy. He seems like a genuine human. He's married with a wife now, and I think they have a kid on the way. So thank God he never got into anything. And I will say Deshaun Watson makes me a little bit happier the Bears drafted Trubisky because I would hate to be dealing with this right now. Because I know I would be in a horrible state of mind if the Bears got a franchise quarterback and he turned around and turned into this. But yeah, I mean, you knocked it out of the park with the whole talking about their egos and whatnot that gets developed. It's terrible. But as you said, if Watson is innocent, even if he's just able to play, because he might not be innocent, but he can play. Settlements happen and whatnot. He's going to make whoever gets him very happy because this is a guy that's a top 5 quarterback when he's on the field, and yeah, some team's going to give up a lot for him, and he's going to turn their team around. You put him on Denver, they're contenders. You put him in Carolina, they might be able to make a Super Bowl push. And I think those are the top 2 teams for him right now. So yeah, Deshaun Watson is a very interesting story this offseason as he was last year. And a slightly less interesting story is Carson Wentz, who is probably just going to get cut and hopefully ends up on the Steelers. Because Wentz is bad. He's very bad. He's very inconsistent. Watching Carson Wentz play is like playing a game of Russian roulette, where you have 5 empty chambers, which is just 5 really bad plays. But every once in a while, you have that 6th chamber. You have that 6th bullet in the chamber that's a hit. And that is Wentz doing something absolutely stupid. Wentz is capable of stupid things. And if it wasn't for his inconsistency, Wentz would be a top 10 quarterback. I mean, I thought he was going to be after his near MVP season in Philly, but he was just never the same quarterback after that. And I was even confident in him going into this year with Indianapolis. I thought, Doug Peterson was holding him back, and then Doug Peterson was holding him back. That's who their coach was. And he was working with practice squad wide receivers, and he was still putting up decent numbers. And that regime was just really desperate to push Jalen Hurts because they drafted him in the second round and whatnot. So I thought Wentz got an unfair deal in Philly, and I thought he was going to turn the Colts into something special. And then they missed the playoffs because they can't beat the Jaguars in the final week of the season. So that, for one, completely changed my perspective on Doug Peterson, who ironically is now the head coach of the Jaguars. And it completely changed my perspective on Wentz. I think he's a very bad quarterback. And it sucks for Colts fans that you gave up a first-round pick for Carson Wentz, who's probably now going to get cut. And that's also bad for Colts fans because you don't have a clear replacement. Like, there is no clear-cut replacement. I thought Rodgers to Indy would have fit. I thought maybe Pat McAfee could work his way in there, work something out with him. But I don't know who they're getting. Maybe they get Watson. Maybe Watson's in the running for the Colts. Or maybe they get someone less flashy that can still be very good, like Jameis Winston, who is another quarterback that's on the market. I think he's incredibly underrated. I think the stigma surrounding Jameis Winston is unfortunate because he is a very talented quarterback. He's a guy who this year, before he got hurt, had the Saints at a 5-1 record. If he doesn't get hurt, they make the playoffs. They wouldn't have won that division. I forgot Tom Brady was in that division for a second. They would have made the playoffs. I think he's going to make a team very, very happy next year, and he's going to prove a lot of people wrong. I got a lot of hate because I said I thought he was better than Kirk Cousins, and I stand by that statement. I think he is much better than Kirk Cousins just because he takes those necessary risks that Kirk won't. And I think if a team like Denver misses out on Aaron Rodgers or misses out on Deshaun Watson, then Winston would be a wonderful fit. Or the Washington Commanders, who are apparently interested in 42 different quarterbacks, which basically means we will take anyone not named Taylor Heineke next year. Please, anyone else. Which sucks. I feel bad for Heineke. I really like him, but he's not a good quarterback. He was probably like the second worst quarterback last year behind Taysom Hill. But yeah, Jameis is going to prove a lot of people wrong next year. And then who else is on here? Who else have I written down? Jimmy Garoppolo, the most beautiful quarterback in the NFL, who is also the most mediocre quarterback in the NFL.
I hate him personally.
You hate Jimmy Garoppolo?
Yes.
Please elaborate, please.
I think this is like the only reason I do hate him because he is a beautiful person. But
indeed, he is.
He is basically the only reason I think that the 49ers are not reaching their fullest potential because their team is amazing.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But then they have Jimmy G, who like even like when some of our first episodes, he said as long as he doesn't throw 2 to 3 picks in this game, the 49ers will be in the Super Bowl, and then he absolutely craps the bed.
I think he actually had 2 interceptions that game.
Yeah, throws 2 picks in like crucial moments near the end of the game, and then the 49ers are eliminated. The reason that I was so mad about that is because I wanted the 49ers to go to the Super Bowl.
I did too.
You always have, for me, it's like the Giants. They're like, we're good, now they're bad. So I'm like, I want this team to win. And this year it was the 49ers. The only reason it didn't happen. So I'm a little bit mad about that.
Yeah, the 49ers are my team in the playoffs too, because I love Deebo Samuel. He's so much fun to watch. I'm very excited at the idea that Deebo Samuel is going to have Trey Lance next year, who I think is a potential generational talent. I know I've said otherwise in the past, but I'm starting to come around on Trey Lance. I've been looking into him a lot more. The way I look at it, not to go off on a tangent or anything, but last year's quarterback class could go down as the best of all time because
it's insane.
If Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, and Trey Lance all pan out, then, oh God, that was a bad voice crack. If they all pan out, then that's 4 potential generational talent type quarterbacks. And then I like Mac Jones. I think his ceiling is like a Kirk Cousins type guy that isn't afraid to take risks. So I guess more like a Ryan Tannehill type, which with Bill Belichick can win you games. If a quarterback like that has Bill Belichick, you're winning football games. And then there's other guys in there that might be sleepers like Kyle Trask or Kellen Mond. Davis Mills. Almost forgot about Davis Mills. He was great last year. Granted, it was the Texans, so he kind of just looked like the shiniest of the trash bags. But he also was the only player out of all the rookie quarterbacks to have a real wide receiver one. That's another conversation, by the way. Brandon Cooks is grossly underrated. That dude's a phenomenal football player. Just because he gets passed around, people think he's bad. That's not the problem at all. He's just been a weird fit in different places. I think Brandon Cooks is wonderful, but my point is Trey Lance is going to be great, and him with Deebo Samuel, very exciting concept. And yeah, so Jimmy Garoppolo is going to go somewhere else next year. Maybe he goes to Pittsburgh. I just want one of these horribly inconsistent quarterbacks to go to Pittsburgh. That's all I want. Like, Mitchell Trubisky, realistically, would probably be the best quarterback to go to Pittsburgh just because he's bad. But I can't have my boy going to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, can't allow that. Can't allow that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would rather Pittsburgh get one of those two guys than like Malik Willis, who I genuinely think can be a good quarterback in the NFL. Speaking of which, this quarterback class this year, again, not to go off on a tangent, I'm doing a lot of talking today. I keep saying it. I'm sorry, but this year's quarterback class is underrated. It's just because guys are trying to compare it, first of all, to last year's. And second of all, we're in a transition period right now where more and more raw quarterbacks are coming out in the sense of guys that have like really good intangibles but need a little bit of polish. And it seems like people aren't quite warmed up to that concept yet because they're used to seeing guys come out that are these polished pocket passers, like a Mac Jones type guy. When in reality, you're going to get a lot more of like Josh Allen and Trey Lance, where they have all the intangibles. They're good arm, really, really athletic, which is the trend for quarterbacks now. The pocket passer era is nearly over, unfortunately. Matt Ryan is the lone survivor. But they're athletic quarterbacks with big arms and slight accuracy issues and slight pocket presence issues that can be fixed with coaching. So if a guy like Malik Willis went to Pittsburgh with Mike Tomlin, he could really pan out. That's why I really don't want him to. I would be cool with him going to Washington on the Commanders at pick 11. That would be pretty cool. Kenny Pickett could also pan out, but he's probably going to go to the Panthers at 6, and Matt Rule is going to ruin him. Desmond Ridder can pan out, and I have him going to Detroit in the last mock I did. I still got to do my post-combine, and I really like him. He's my favorite quarterback of the bunch. And if he goes to Detroit and sits behind Jared Goff for a year, he could be great, which terrifies me because that makes it seem like the Bears and the Lions are going to have really good quarterbacks going forward. And then luckily the Packers will have Jordan Love, who is bad, and the Vikings will have Kirk Cousins, who is also bad.
The Vikings will have Kirk Cousins until the world explodes.
Fingers crossed. That would be great. The money you have to pay Kirk Cousins, beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. The product you get for the money you pay is not worth it at all.
Terrible value for what you're paying.
Yeah. So I'm going to let Andrew take over here in a second because we're going to talk about basketball a little bit. But before that, I know I preach that analytics are dumb. In the NFL, advanced analytics are dumb. However, when it comes to YouTube, advanced analytics are actually pretty good. And advanced analytics say that 60% of the people who watch this podcast are not subscribed. So change that. Subscribe.
I'm absolutely shocked that I am in.
You guys broke Andrew.
Clip. I'm in that. That's 60% of viewers.
Last time I checked, 60% of viewers are not subscribed, unfortunately. So if you guys could do that, that would be cool. I'd appreciate it. Andrew would appreciate it. Yeah, please.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. I don't know how to convince you guys to subscribe. If you subscribe, Andrew will do a dance. That's what'll happen. He
Of
genuinely
course
will.
he is.
Andrew's a good dancer. This kid dances with energy and excitement. He has a nose for the spotlight. I need to one day get. Uh, didn't somebody record when we did songs for New World?
Yeah.
I need to get the clip of River of you dancing, just you dancing, because my mom said watching the show she always saw you finding your way into the spotlight, which I don't doubt for a second because you're you.
Yeah.
I need that clip, and we need to just throw it up. Like when we hit new subscriber milestones, I'll just repost it. I'll just repost it over and over and over again. And eventually,
Please.
when we hit a full milestone, I'll post the whole thing because that's what I sing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh goodness. And then when we hit a bigger milestone, we'll post you singing because that's what the people really want to see. Because this kid has talent. I
Hey
do not.
man. Hey man.
But anyways, like I said, I want to talk about basketball. So there seems to be this growing narrative that Ja Morant is better than prime Derrick Rose. And as a very biased Bulls fan and also a hard NBA casual, I think that's stupid because Derrick Rose is the second coming of Jesus Christ. What, as someone who understands basketball way better than I do, how do you feel about this narrative?
I mean, you really can't debate that Derrick Rose is the second coming of Jesus Christ. I mean, you just said it. But I personally, I like Ja. I liked Ja a lot more before, like 2 weeks ago, when people started talking about him all like a lot. But I think the issue is that the seasons are very similar, like MVP Rose and John Moran right now. But the thing is, Derrick Rose was still climbing. Like Ja's been like at this sort of level, but like how much better is Ja gonna get? Because Derrick Rose was on that incline and he got cut off by the injury,
By
and
Tom
that's when his
Thibodeau,
prime
yeah.
ended. Exactly.
Because Thibodeau
Well,
refused to take
yeah,
him out. I hate that
yeah,
man.
true.
I have such a love hate relationship with Tom Thibodeau. I didn't mean to cut you off. Please continue.
But like comparing skills, Ja's a better 3-point shooter, but I think that Derrick Rose was literally unstoppable in the game. Literally completely unstoppable. And it really just depends on if Ja can get those awards that Derrick Rose is getting, because he got an MVP. I think they were the same age at this point. Like Derrick Rose got his MVP around this time that Ja's currently at. But it just depends because Ja, I think, is like exactly like Derrick Rose, basically. But shoots the three ball better, is not as good driving to the basket just because Derrick Rose was so good at doing that. And I think that there is a little bit of a difference on the defensive side as well. I think Derrick Rose is a lot better defensively in his prime than Ja is now. But I think it's just the way that the game is going. Because like Derrick Rose didn't have to shoot when he was in his prime, so he didn't. But Ja has to shoot now. And I think that's the main difference between the two.
Yeah,
But I do think that Derrick Rose is better,
yeah,
to
and
say the
we
least.
we even saw Derrick Rose after the ACL tear, after he got passed around. He developed a 3-point shot. He's not great at it, but he can hit threes consistently. And I think if he would have played in this era, if he wouldn't have gotten hurt, he would have developed a three ball. He would have done that no problem because Derrick Rose is a very talented athlete. And like you said, he was on the incline. He was only getting better. He won MVP in what, his second year, third year, second year, whatever it was. That was before I started watching basketball. Um, which I think I've said this before on here. I literally started watching basketball the year after Rose tore his ACL, which is still one of my biggest regrets as a sports fan, is not getting into the NBA sooner because I never got to witness Rose live. Jimmy Butler's my guy. That's who I grew up on. And Jimmy hasn't been playing great, but that's a whole other thing. Dude can't shoot a three to save his life. But yeah, I agree. I don't think Ja is quite D Rose yet. I think he'll end his career on top just because it's going to be a longer career. He's going to accomplish more, as you said. He probably will win an MVP by the time it's all said and done. Maybe he wins a title by the time it's all said and done because that Grizzlies team is on the upswing primarily because of him. But as of right now, I'm afraid Derrick Rose is still superior. And if you say otherwise, you're simply a casual. You're simply a casual, or you're an analytics nerd. Whatever supports Ja Morant being better, you are wrong. I don't know which it is.
You're either side of the spectrum
Yeah.
if you're saying the Ja's better.
If you think Ja Morant is better than Derrick Rose, you simply need to log off and delete Twitter.
Thank you very
much. Let's see here. Speaking of Derrick Rose and the team he plays for, the Bulls are bad. I'm scared. I'm very scared. The Bulls are not playing very well at all because we miss Lonzo so much. We need Lonzo and Caruso. I saw a crazy thing the other day, and it was like Bulls record with Caruso, and it was really good. Bulls record without Caruso, and they're like 4-11. And then Cavs record since losing Caruso, and it's whatever their record is now. And the Cavs are terrible. Or not the Cavs, I'm sorry, the Lakers. My mind just went LeBron team and completely skipped over the fact that he's on the Lakers right now. Yeah, but Caruso is sneakily one of the most important role players in basketball. And I said when the Bulls signed him in the offseason that I was very excited for him for his defense and also because I won an Alex Caruso jersey, which I still got to get. But him showing up and really being as great as he is, we've talked about it 100 times on here. The Bulls have had so many role players step up with Caruso, Ayo, Tristan Thompson now, Javonte Green. It's been wonderful. It's truly been wonderful to see what this team's been able to accomplish. And I really think once everyone's healthy, they're going to make a lot of noise. You're going to have Lonzo back out there, Patrick Williams, Caruso. We're going to take Grayson Allen and break his penis off. That's going to be the goal. Tristan Thompson was like ready to murder that man the other night. I forget what the quote was, but he was going off. He was like, "That's my boy." And literally like 3 days after getting signed by the Bulls, he was like, "That's my boy, and you don't mess with my boy." And I was like, "Fuck yeah, Tristan. Fuck yeah." I love Tristan Thompson. He's one of my favorite players in the Bulls already because he's not Tony Bradley.
The God.
Speaking of Tony Bradley, what college did Tony Bradley go to, Andrew?
University of North Carolina?
Yes, sir, he did. And what did the University of North Carolina do last night?
They beat Duke University?
And what was special about that game?
Was Coach K's last game at Cooper Stadium? Cooper?
I think it's Cameron.
Cameron. C-name.
Yeah, C-name. C-name stadium. That's right. The North Carolina Tar Heels, my favorite college basketball team. I care more about college basketball than the NBA, unfortunately. UNC's been bad this year, which sucks. It's so out of character. And part of that is because Roy Williams is gone now, and big boy Hubert hasn't quite been able to fill that gap. However, he's on the upswing. I do like what I've seen out of him as a coach. But North Carolina came out and they said, F your senior night, F Coach K, this is our night. And Armando Bacot, future ACC Player of the Year and NBA stud, that man's going to be an NBA basketball player. I don't care what anyone says. He needs to get more NBA hype because he is an uber athletic big who's averaging a double-double right now in the ACC and is pretty much single-handedly carrying North Carolina. He's not getting enough attention, and he deserves more. But I digress. That game was wonderful to watch. They had everyone there. Jerry Seinfeld was there. Adam Silver was there. Grant Hill was there. Dirk Nowitzki was there. It was like 80 or 90 of Coach K's former players were at this game. Someone paid $90,000 to go to this game. The average ticket price was $4,000. An unranked North Carolina came in and beat number 4 Duke on Coach K's night. They forced Coach K to open his, final ceremony or whatever with an apology.
Yeah.
He had to come out and apologize.
That was so scary. Oh my God. I watched that and I was like, oh no. Because he was like, no, don't clap. Stop clapping.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, guys. That's unacceptable. I was like, oh no. Those Duke players are going to be running. They are running
Yeah,
for the entire practice the next day.
yeah. And the best part about Carolina, by the way, you look at the minutes. 40 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 38 minutes, 37 minutes. Those were the minutes for our starters. We played four guys off the bench, and none of them played more than 5 minutes, and only one of them scored any points. We had four 20-point scorers. We had a double double from Manic, from Brady Manic. Sorry, couldn't remember his name. I love Brady Manic, by the way. That dude is so fun to watch. He's a great shooter. It was towards the very beginning of the game. I didn't get to watch the whole thing because I was out of town, but I was following it on my phone, watching bits and pieces. Towards the beginning of the game, it was like 7-2 Carolina. He hit a three and looked at Duke and said, "Bang, bang, motherfucker." And it was so beautiful. I just love this Carolina team. It's not good. It's not the Carolina teams I'm used to, where you have your Justin Jacksons, your Marcus Pages, your Kobe Whites, those kind of guys. It's not that team, but it's a fun team. And I love what they're doing right now. They just saved themselves from being on the cusp of not making the tournament. And I would love for obviously I would love for North Carolina to make a run right now. But my big thing with this game, apart from Carolina winning, apart from Coach K getting upset in his final game, which, by the way, North Carolina won Roy Williams' last game at the Dean Smith Center, and now they beat Coach K in his final game in his home stadium, which is beautiful because Carolina wins those big games over Duke. Also, how stupid was it of Coach K to schedule UNC for his last game?
That's awful.
Like, I'll guarantee you it's not basketball, but like when Nick Saban retires, he's gonna schedule like Alabama Tech or some dumb shit, so his boys can go out there, put up 60 in his honor. He's not scheduling one of the best teams in the nation. He's not scheduling a rival, which I guess maybe that makes him a bitch or whatever. But I respect that. Let your kids go out there and make a big fuss. But anyways, my point was, my favorite thing about this whole thing was Coach K made it all about himself. It was their senior night. And a lot of their seniors didn't get any recognition. They didn't get any attention. They played a couple minutes here and there, but they didn't get any attention. It was Coach K's night. He completely stole the thunder from all of his seniors just to get beat and have to apologize to a crowd that paid over $4,000 per seat. This is the biggest win in North Carolina regular season history and the biggest win since we won the national championship. I love this basketball team so much. I don't watch enough college basketball. Like I said, I like it more than the NBA, but I don't watch enough of it. And stuff like this makes me want to. Stuff like this really makes me want to. Like, I'm not going to miss a single Carolina tournament game, obviously. And I won't miss a single ACC tournament game for Carolina. I love this team so much. And, I mean, I just can't stop smiling thinking about Coach K being sad. It just makes me so happy. I hate that man. I hate him so much. Coach K is the LeBron James of college basketball for me because I hate those men equally. So much. Andrew knows how much I hate LeBron James. I hate that man with a passion. I hate Coach K just as much. And I hate Aaron Rodgers just as much.
That's a bold take for you, man.
Yeah. I hate him. And we beat him. We made him apologize. That's the key. We made him apologize on his night. I keep saying it, but it's just wonderful. And Andrew, I always forget, you're a Maryland fan, right?
Yeah, we're in poverty. We're absolutely in poverty.
But you hate Coach K too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not as in college basketball as you are.
Yeah.
I have a respect for him, but like a lot of that respect got worn down after what he said at the end of the game. I was like, just let them celebrate you. That's the entire point.
Yeah, Duke was
like, you lost. You're making it more embarrassing for your team and for yourself that you lost by saying what you're saying right now.
Yeah. Like, okay. He managed to be a sore loser after, like, which is beautiful. He managed to be a sore loser by a apologizing. Because,
somehow.
and any other instance, it's like, okay, yeah, he's taking responsibility. But this is your night. This is your senior night. Just be like, we gave it our all, and we couldn't get it done. And, it sucks, but it is what it is. You could have been like, at the end of the day, who's ranked? And like, it went out on a high note, right? But instead, you
Yeah.
cower down. You're like, I'm sorry. We're not good
I don't
enough.
expect you.
uh, yeah, I hate Duke. I hate Coach K. I love North Carolina. But I don't know. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about? I think we've been going for about an hour now.
Yeah, I'm perfectly good.
Okay.
It's hitting that point in the season where it's like in a lull. It's like
Yeah.
all playoffs after the All-Star game, no more trades are happening. Players are playing pretty good, but like we've seen that all season at this point, so nothing's really surprising us.
Mm-hmm. So someone suggested that I start ending these podcasts with a question because that encourages people to comment and that encourages engagement, right? So my question for everyone at home, and Andrew, feel free to answer as well. Who is your favorite random NFL player? Just like how we did this a couple episodes ago with the NBA, where I was
Yeah,
like, yeah, who would be your NFL equivalent for that?
Andrew Thomas
Andrew
from the New
Thomas.
York Giants.
Okay.
Take a wild guess as to why that is my favorite.
Hmm. Huh. I don't know, Andrew Thomas Watkins. Why is that?
Oh, because it's my name.
Mine's a lot less fun. Mine is Dane Sanzenbacher, who was a wide receiver for the Bears in the mid 2010s. He was a seventh round pick, and I just remember he was a wide receiver and he was a little white guy. So I just remember being like 12 and seeing him in preseason, being like, "Go, white boy, go!" And I thought he was going to be good, and then he wasn't. I didn't understand back then that seventh round picks are not supposed to be good football players. I just thought, oh, he's fast and in preseason, good player. But yeah, make sure you guys leave yours in the comments. Andrew Thomas. That was so. I'm sorry. That was just goofy. Took a wild guess. He's not even that random. He's a first round
This is my
pick.
name. This is my name.
Okay. But yeah, if make sure to leave yours in the comments. We're gonna start doing that at the end of every episode now. I'm gonna ask Andrew a question at the beginning, and then I'm gonna ask you guys a question at the end. So Andrew's gonna get 2 questions a week. Yeah. So, anyways, make sure to subscribe. Like I said, 60% of y'all are not subscribed. Make sure to do that. Apparently, I'm supposed to remind you guys as well to like the video. I forgot that was a thing. So do that as well. That would be cool. And yeah, I hope you guys are enjoying. Make sure you follow me and Andrew on TikTok and on Twitter. Links are in the description below. And I hope you all have a wonderful day as I look for my mouse.